Good evening, everyone, in Jefferson County for the 113th Annual Chamber Dinner and Meeting. My name is Cameron Mitchell. It's a pleasure to be here with you, and albeit remotely, but always enjoy these types of occasions and being with fellow Ohioans. I run a restaurant company based in Columbus, Ohio, called Cameron Mitchell Restaurants. And the title of my presentation today is The Associate First Culture Always Wins. And so I'm going to take you through quickly the history of our company culture, a little bit about COVID and how we dealt with COVID, and then I'll close with some observations about the future of the restaurant business in America. So with that, let me begin right now. We have our first restaurant was Cameron's of Worthington 27 years ago. In 1993, October 5th of 1993, we opened up. Today we have over 20 different concepts in 14 states plus Washington, D.C. We have 61 restaurants in that footprint. Our main brand is Ocean Prime. That's our national brand. We also own and operate the Rusty Bucket Corner Tavern, and then 16 or 18 more concepts under our banner of our independent restaurant collection, or what we call our specialty restaurant collection. So I've shared with you our map of where we are around the country, and my story is I grew up here in Columbus, and I came from a broken home. I started doing drugs and alcohol when I was 12 years old through middle school. By the time I got to become a sophomore in high school, I was incorrigible and decided my mom was going to have me meet with Children's Services, so I decided to drop out of high school and become a runaway. So I was on my own for about 6 months. I came back what was going to be the first night of what my junior year would have been. Came home, reconciled with my mom, and got started. And I didn't have a dime. All I had was the clothes on my back, and I started school the next day. I had to work in the school cafeteria to get lunch. My mom couldn't even afford to give me lunch money. And ultimately, in that year, I needed to get a job. And so I got a job washing dishes at a local steakhouse for $2.65 an hour at 16 years old as a junior in high school. I worked in that job the next 2 years in high school, and ironic, I ended up becoming senior class president of my high school out of 500 and almost 600 kids. But my class rank was 592 out of 597. I had a 1.05 GPA. So I went off to school. Finally graduated school. I actually go to summer school both years, and got out of there and started working. Was just working for beer money. 18 years old, living with mom, and I was working 2 jobs. I opened a new restaurant in December of 1981, which was still the year I graduated. And in early 1992, this restaurant was was very, very busy. And I was I was working for the man. I was the laziest guy in the kitchen. It was work for me. I had a poor attitude. I got suspended for 3 days, and I got put on 30 days probation. And during that probationary period, it was a Friday afternoon during shift change, and so I was working as an AM cook and then a PM host that night, and it was pandemonium in the kitchen, and time froze, and I had an epiphany. It was 4 in the afternoon, and I said, I just love this business. This is what I'm going to do the rest of my life. So I went home that night, woke up my mother, wrote out my goals, what I was going to do, and I was going to go to the Culinary Institute of America, and I heard about that school. It's the Harvard of culinary schools, top culinary school in the world. I was going to graduate from there. I was going to become executive chef by the time I was 23, so that was my 5-year plan. And then general manager at 24, regional at 26, vice president of operations at 30, and then president of a restaurant company by the time I was 35. Went back to work that next morning, the hardest working guy in the kitchen with the best attitude, and no longer working for the man. I was working for myself and my future and my career, and literally did a 180-degree turn in that 24-hour period from Friday to Saturday, and really kind of never looked back from there. I went to the Culinary Institute of America, although I got turned down the first time because of my high school grades, so I had to go back and take math and English courses at our local college. Got A's, reapplied, got in. I graduated from there. I became executive chef of White Tablecloth, top 10 restaurant here in Columbus at 23. I became general manager of that restaurant at 24. At 26, we had built, this group I was with had built 6 restaurants, or 4 restaurants, I should say, and I became the operations manager for those 4 restaurants, and then we grew to 6 restaurants. And I started to hit my head on the ceiling. I'd been with that company for 6 years. My boss, the operating partner, was a micromanager, and the guys that owned the business really didn't care about us in the restaurant business. This was a hip pocket business for them. They were local developers, and they were just putting restaurants in their developments and so forth as amenities, and didn't care about us. So I started to hit my head on the ceiling, realizing that was not where I was going to be. And I was at a local restaurant on a Friday night, and I always joke my epiphanies happen on Fridays. And so it was about 9 o'clock, meeting a friend for a drink at the bar, and the chef owner of that restaurant was Pat, came out with his kitchen whites on and had a glass of wine in his hand, was kibitzing with guests in the dining room, and I knew him, and it was just great to see. And I had another epiphany. It hit me like a ton of bricks. I knew right then and there, I said, I'm going to start my own restaurant company. And so that was May of 1992. I left my job July 11th, 1992. Spent 14 months trying to open the first restaurant. I was completely broke. I finally got down to rolling change to buy groceries and give up my apartment, and moved into my mom's condo. She had moved to Florida with her husband at the time, or was in Florida with her husband at the time. And I finally got the deal put together and raised the money I needed, and was able to open that restaurant October 5th of 1993. But before I even started looking for a site, in my one-bedroom apartment here in Columbus, I wrote out our company culture and values for the first 30 days. I was working on that because I wanted to birth a company. It wasn't about opening a restaurant. And so somehow I was fortuitous enough to know that that was very important. And once I got that culture and values written out, I proceeded about the course of business of building a restaurant company wrapped around that culture and values. And next July will be the 30th year I've been doing that. So, and I'll take you through that culture and values. But we opened up October 5th, 1993, and we have 5 restaurants opening next year. There's one up here in Dublin called Valentina's, a Northern Italian cuisine. That will be the 100th restaurant we opened since we started Cameron Mitchell Restaurants. And so we sold 22 of them to Ruth Chris. We've closed about 14, and we'll have about 64 restaurants when that restaurant opens here soon. So it's been a great run. And, you know, how did it happen? You know, yes, my name's on the front door. Yes, I'm the Chief Executive Officer of this organization, but I'm blessed to be surrounded by some incredible people, incredibly talented people, number one. And number two, more importantly, is our company culture and philosophy and values that we've lived by all these years, and has helped us through that. So I'm going to take you through that culture right now. There are 6 questions that I think we have to be able to answer, and answer with conviction and authority. And so, and these are what we become our cultural pillars in our organization. So the first question that we want to ask ourselves is, who are we? And we identify ourselves as great people delivering genuine hospitality. We all know great people in our lives. Delivering means someone is receiving genuine from the heart. Hospitality is defined as treating guests like we would in our own home. And that's who we are. We are great people delivering genuine hospitality. Second question is, why are we in business? Now, this is our mission, if you will, and we're in business to thrive with both cultural and fiscal responsibility. And notice I said the word cultural first. Our number one goal in business is not to make a profit. Our number one goal in this business is to maintain our culture and values. I want our company to be around 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 years long after I'm in the restaurant, big restaurant in the sky. And the only way we're going to do that is by being a culturally driven organization. So job number one in our company is to maintain our company culture and values. Job number 1A is to make a profit. And anybody knows me knows I drive profit hard, and we want to make a damn good profit. We benchmark ourselves against all the publicly held restaurant companies, and we know we're in the upper 10th percentile of profitability for restaurant companies, the public restaurant companies out there in this country. And so we drive a good profit, but never at the expense of our culture and values, and certainly never at the expense of our people. So that is our mission, okay? Question number 3 is, what do we want to be? We want to be an extraordinary restaurant company, and that is very simple. By definition, extraordinary is the opposite of ordinary. And so everything we can do, and I could talk for hours with you today or this evening about all the extraordinary things we do in this company, but but that's what we want to be, is an extraordinary restaurant company. So we continually, day in, day out, aspire to that goal. Fourth is, what is your role? We have about 5,000 what we call associates, our employees in the company. We all have different job descriptions all around the country. You might be general manager of Beverly Hills Ocean Prime. You might be server at Ocean Prime in Dallas, or a dishwasher here at Cameron's of Worthington. Okay, so all these different job descriptions, but all 5,000 of us have the same role in the company, and that is to make raving fans of the 5 groups of people we do business with. First and foremost is our fellow associates, our guests, our purveyors, our partners, and our community. We believe you have to belong to one of those 5 constituencies to have any interaction with Cameron Mitchell Restaurants. So if we can make raving fans of those 5 groups of people, we'll make raving fans of everybody we come in contact with. Okay? Our 5th pillar is, what is our goal? Now, businesses have goals, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly goals. They come hundreds of goals, thousands of goals, and they change and they come and they go. But we have one goal that stays the same 24/7, 365, and that is to be better today than we were yesterday and better tomorrow than we are today. And what does that mean, and what does that do for us? It does 2 things. One, you cannot be better at something today than you were yesterday and better at something tomorrow than you are today without working at it. So it creates a culture of change where status quo is never good enough for us. We're always trying to improve ourselves, all right, and push ourselves to be better at our craft. And so it's a constant unwritten rule in our organization that we're always pushing. Number 2, it's our insurance policy. We could talk for hours on how successful Cameron Mitchell Restaurants is. We could look at it as very successful compared to maybe a single mom and pop organization, or maybe moderately successful compared to, say, Darden restaurants out there. But we would all agree with the statement, I think, that Cameron Mitchell Restaurants is somewhat of a successful restaurant company. So by meeting our goal of being better today than we were yesterday and better tomorrow than we are today, by that definition alone, we will be more of a successful restaurant company tomorrow than we are today. So it keeps us on that upward trajectory, and again, keeps us going towards our goal of being a restaurant company around for the ages. So, and then our 6th pillar, if you will, is, what is our pledge? Excuse me. What is our pledge? And that is simply to create a diverse and inclusive and equitable environment where all are valued, welcomed, and heard. So we have been doing this for a long, long time. Long before it became fashionable. We treat people with eloquent language and respect in our company, and that we have all of our associates sign this pledge when they start with Cameron Mitchell Restaurants. So those are our 6 cultural pillars. I've got now also 8 core philosophies, if you will, and I'm not going to go through all 8 with you. I have them on the slide up there. I'm just going to talk about the one that's most important, and that is our associates come first. Okay? So you think in a restaurant company the guest would come first, or the guest is always right, and I don't believe in that. And I actually don't believe we even have a direct relationship with a guest. Our guests come to our restaurants once every day, once every week, once every month, once every few months, once a year, sometimes once and never again, unfortunately. That's very rare, but it does happen. We make mistakes like everybody else does, but we do have a relationship with our people. We see our people every day. And so I look at it as a triangular relationship. If we take care of our people take care of our guests, and our guests will take care of our company through repeat visits. So it's a triangular relationship, not a direct relationship. And we're a restaurant company built by its people, for its people. And so thus the associate first philosophy, all right? So with that, there's one more piece of our company culture and values, and that is the title of my book, and I believe I've got books. Do I have books for everybody there coming, right? And that is, yes is the answer, what is the question, okay? And what does that mean? That's been there since day one in our company, but it is, I believe yes is challenging. When it's easy to say no. No requires no action. Yes requires action, and it's an actionable item. So that's been our company since day one, but we changed our culture ever so slightly. We added the milkshake to that in 2002. I went to a local chain, a restaurant outpost of a chain for lunch with my wife and my 2 boys at the time. I've got 3 kids now, but I had 2 little boys at the time, 4 and 2 years old. and my in-laws. We went to lunch on a Saturday at this restaurant, and my wife didn't want to go there because they don't really take care of kids, but I wanted to see it, and there's a couple dishes I wanted to look at. So I persuaded her to go. We went in, and I, anybody knows they have little kids, know you got to get food to them pretty quickly, and you got to get them entertained a little bit. And so I wanted to get a grilled cheese sandwich for my 4-year-old, and the gal said, no, I'm sorry, we don't have grilled cheese on the menu. I said, okay, well, if you remember the movie from Jack Nicholson, 5 Easy Pieces, I said, okay, well, I'll have a club sandwich, hold the turkey, lettuce, tomato, mayo, middle slice of bread, and the bacon. And if I can have what's left sauteed in a pan for me on each side, that'd be great. So I got our grilled cheese for our son. And then I wanted to get a small chocolate shake. And she says, ooh, I can't do that either. All we have is a Haagen-Dazs ice cream shake, and it's about a quart of ice cream. It's absolutely huge, and it's just way too much for a little 4-year-old or your son. I said, okay, well, will you ask your manager if we can make one for us? So I see her go over and ask the manager. I see the manager shake her head no. She comes back, I'm sorry, we can't do it. I said, all right, can you have your manager come over and see me? She says, okay. My wife starts kicking me under the table. Don't do this. Don't make a scene. I'm like, don't. I just want to know why. So she comes over and she says to me, sorry, we can't do it because we pre-portion the ice cream. Now, I'm in the restaurant business, and I know that's a crock of you-know-what. There's nobody in the back kitchen pre-portioning the ice cream. So I said, okay. I said, well, can I get a chocolate milk, please? And she says, oh, absolutely. So now she's great people delivering genuine hospitality, right? And she's going to go get me a chocolate milk for my son. She turns to walk away. I said, hold on a second. So on the menu, it says here, a la mode, $2.95 for this brownie dessert and a carrot cake dessert they had. And I said, what's a la mode mean? She goes, it's a scoop of ice cream to go with the desserts. I said, great. Can I have an order of a la mode to go with that chocolate milk you're going to make for me? And if you could whip that up in a blender for me, that'd be great. And she says, okay, sir. So she gives it and she chastises me. Says, well, it's going to be expensive. She's all put out. And I'm like, don't worry about it. I can take care of it. So I get our chocolate shake. So a couple weeks later, I'm the keynote speaker at the Hyatt Regency, 500 people downtown Columbus here. And I'm telling the story about yes is the answer, what's the question in our company, and how this wouldn't happen in our company and so forth. And about 2 weeks after that, or a week after that, a gal comes, stops me on the street and said, hey, how you doing, Cameron? I just want to let you know my husband saw you speak at the Hyatt, went to lunch at one of your restaurants, the fish market at the time, and went in the bar and wanted to take you up on the milkshake story and asked to order a chocolate milkshake. And the bartender said, I'm sorry, we don't make chocolate milkshakes here. It's like she punched me in the stomach right there in the middle of the street. I couldn't believe it. So I'm an entrepreneur. I'm kind of like a chicken little, sky's always falling. So I go rolling into our exec meeting on Monday morning, and I'm fired up. I'm like, what do our people understand about yes is the answer? What's the question? And our culture is not permeating the organization like we want. So we brainstormed, and we decided let's make a video of me telling that milkshake story, and let's create the milkshake as our emblem of hospitality in CMR, our Cameron Mitchell Restaurants, and that's great. And we make milkshake pins for our servers, for service anniversary pins. It just wasn't enough. We started, well, let's do a milkshake story. We have a Saturday afternoon pit stop at all of our restaurants for all of our team. We get together and we talk about a culture moment. Well, let's talk about the milkshake and do a milkshake award for that associate that went above and beyond the call of duty that week. Great, okay, that's great. It's just not quite enough. And so we figured out now that every associate that starts in our company goes through a 4-hour orientation before they begin their training. And so we now make everybody that starts in our company the first day during orientation a chocolate milkshake. We start every major meeting, every meeting with a milkshake toast. We do milkshake gifts for VIP guests that come into our offices, et cetera, et cetera. I can go on and on and on. We make thousands and thousands of chocolate milkshakes every year within our organization. And you can't go anywhere in our company without seeing a chocolate milkshake and being reminded of, yes is the answer, what's the question, and we are great people delivering genuine hospitality. So that's our culture and values and kind of how I believe is really the secret sauce, if you will, to our company's success and what's guided us through all these years. We use that culture as a screen to measure basically everything we do, because if it's not within our culture and values, we don't do it. So, and no more important of a time that culture and values come into play than it did with COVID, when COVID struck. And so walk you through a little bit of some of the trials and tribulations we went through with COVID. I had a meeting with our bank on March 3rd, and we'd started off the year gangbusters. January and February were record months. We had record profitability. Sales were through the roof, and I had a meeting with their bank, and forecasting for the year, and I was very optimistic. And I said, now this is all predicated, of course, as if this what happens with this COVID thing. And we all know what happened. Literally 17 days later, we had shut down our restaurants and furloughed. We had 4,500 associates that point. We furloughed all of them but about 8. We kept myself. That was all through the first week. I came back to work Monday morning. It was myself, it was our President Chief Operating Officer, our CFO, our legal counsel, our VP of Development, our VP of Human Resources, and a couple of other folks in payroll and human resources. So we maybe had 10 people in the office at that point in time. And we, put our heads down and went at it. What do we got to do to save this company? What do we, have to do to survive here? And so we immediately, the first thing we did was call our bank. And within 2 weeks, we had our interest payments and our principal payments suspended, and come to an agreement with the bank and for the next year, and got our bank's support of us. And so we were very fortunate to be able to do that. In our bank, we've got a great banking relationship. And like all of our purveyors, we try to, do business with someone for years and years and years. We don't move around. I wasn't switching banks and shopping rates and all that sort of thing. So our bank and our company had a very, very, very good relationship, and they trusted us and they stood behind us, okay? We announced to all of our employees, our associates were very concerned about health care, that we would pay their health care costs for the next 90 days till we can get through this thing. So that reverberated very well within our company. We established an associate relief fund. We sold about $750,000 worth of gift certificates, and we gave that money to all of our associates to help with groceries and that sort of thing through the time. We determined right up front that we're going to communicate with our people, and we're going to communicate with them some more, and we're going to communicate with some more, and we're going to be transparent through this whole thing. And so we really started that whole process of just incredible communication and transparent communication with our people. Then we had to go through the process of negotiating. We had 58 restaurants at the time, all of our landlord leases and our rents, to try to get our lease payments suspended. And that was an arduous process. It's like negotiating 58 real estate deals in a matter of a few short weeks, but we got through it. And I'm proud to say all but one of our landlords played ball with us, if you will, and helped provide us some relief. So taking those rent payments, either suspending them entirely or taking them down or delaying them, et cetera, was a huge help to us. Then we went about the process of securing PPP. And for us, we got the maximum of $10 million. We qualified for $25 million because of our size, but the limit was 10. But I'll tell you, we got that word in April of 2020 that we've been approved for the PPP. It'll be coming in a matter of days. And that point was really a big turning point for us. I think I knew at that point in time we weren't going to die. I mean, PPP, in my opinion, did its job and did its job well. It helped us survive through this whole thing. I'm not sure we would have or could have without those PPP dollars. Okay, and it wasn't nearly enough, but it was enough to help us bridge the gap. We went to our partners, and I raised a little more capital with our partners, unsure of what the future held. I wanted to shore up our balance sheet a little more and get some more padding on our balance sheet, because and our partners stepped up to the plate to help do that also. I spent hundreds of hours on TV, had, probably 24 national media interviews, print interviews, probably had several dozen calls with congressmen around the country, congresspeople, and also with our National Restaurant Association and our Ohio Restaurant Association people, and just advocating for our industry. And I was one of the out front people of our industry to try to help and help with government relations, to help get some of the things we need in media relations. We established a COVID-19 task force. 10 members of our company, a couple members of our executive team led that task force, but we tracked every COVID case, we provided guidance. We worked with the Cleveland Clinic to develop our COVID protocols, and everything ran through that task force, and the task force convened every Monday for half a day, and helped us navigate through this crisis. And at one point I'm thinking to myself, these people are working so hard and we're having so much struggle and difficulty dealing with COVID. I couldn't imagine how the independent restaurateur was doing, the single operator. So we went to our local our Ohio Restaurant Association here, and we just put out on the Restaurant Association all of our entire COVID protocols, and talked. We had a Zoom meeting with about 300 members of what we're doing, how we're handling things, and so forth. Just trying to help out our fellow restaurateurs through this. We continued again that regular associate communication. And then 60 days we were closed. We were able to start to reopen with carryout. We did not do much carryout. We're a full service dining restaurant company. And so we had to pivot there a little bit and figure that out. And in the beginning, that was very difficult because everybody was coming out for carryout, and it was just kind of a madhouse in some of our restaurants. But we were able to do it. That became the soft platform, a soft opening to get ready to open the restaurants here a few weeks later after that. So that it did help in a lot of ways. We spent about $1.5 million on PPP. The plexiglass in our restaurants. We put a new ventilation systems, filtering system in that created effectively outside air quality inside the restaurants through new technology, and everything else we did to make our restaurants safe, and for not just our people but for our guests. So, and then we know about George Floyd and the protests with that and the social injustice, and at one point we had most of our restaurants in the process of reopening, and during that time frame, and then at one point we had 12 restaurants boarded up. So that was just very difficult to navigate through, and we wanted to show support, and so we led a lot of calls with our LGBTQ community, our African American community, our Latino communities in our restaurants, and we wanted to show solidarity in that, and that we took this very seriously, and we wanted to do the best we can to improve our relationships out there in the wake of all of George Floyd and all the social injustice that came to light here in America, and a lot of community support and outreach, and we weathered the surges. I like to strategize in our business and plan, and we spent most of 2020 in a reactionary mode, just reacting to what was coming at us from day in and day out. So that's kind of what we do with COVID and how we handled that. And today we are doing very well with COVID. I mean, it's still a challenge. We disbanded our COVID task force. We now have reinstated our COVID task force with the Delta variant. As you know, as America, we've gone through another big wave of infections, but fortunately we've got the vaccines and everything else helping too. So hopefully this might be able to put this, eventually get COVID, maybe not completely in our rearview mirror, but into a much more manageable situation. But our two biggest challenges today are still the uncertainty of COVID and dealing with COVID, and then our labor force, our workforce, and the lack of associates. We have a number of restaurants. In the early days of COVID, we had government restrictions in place. Now there's really no government restrictions. They're all self-imposed restrictions. We have a number of restaurants that we're limiting reservations on nights because we don't have enough staff. We opened our new El Segundo Mexican Kitchen a couple weeks ago. We're supposed to be open 7 nights a week and Saturday and Sunday brunch, and we're only open 6 nights a week and no Saturday or Sunday brunch because we don't have staff for it. So that's still a big challenge. We have rising costs, as we all know, supply chain issues that are out there. Cost of goods have risen 2 points in our company, which is several $1 million, and also with overtime and the wage inflation that's going on out there, is just very challenging. But I would say though that those are strong headwinds versus the Category 5 wins we were in last year in 2020. And so our sales have actually done very well. We right now are running about 20% up on 2019 sales. We can't compare obviously to 2020. We've got some price increases and so forth. So roughly half of that is price increase over those couple of years, and the other half is traffic, even though we are under some sort of restrictions. But business is pretty good, but it is rough out there. I use the analogy the company is kind of held together by duct tape right now because it's vibrating, you know, and it's challenging for our people. But our teams have come much closer together through COVID. That's one of the silver linings. There are a number of opportunities we've gotten out there for growth with restaurants, and yes, unfortunately, we lost some. We had a little thinning of the herd, but I think with every difficult or every challenge we face, there's opportunities that create themselves too, and I think a lot of those people will be able to reinvent themselves, and there'll be the backfill of new opportunities of restaurants for restaurant spaces in the next few years for people to take advantage of. Our industry clearly was elevated in its stature through COVID and all the media that we got and so forth. I think America realized how important the restaurant industry is to America. So that was a good thing for us, and we'll reap some benefits from that over the years going forward. Our industry has always been plagued with relatively low wages. I think that is going to be erased here through COVID. The days of paying someone a little low wage and getting away with it are gone, and I'm proud of that. I'm happy for that. So we've got all of our managers are making more money, or all of our hourly people, particularly in the back of the house, are making a lot more money, and certainly our tipped associates are making a lot more money with the increased sales. So on that front, that's a good sign. And we have seen, now that all the stimulus is gone, the past 30 days, we've started to see an uptick of applicant flow into the restaurant. So our staffing is getting better as we speak, and I suspect will continue to get better, but especially with the increased wages we're paying. Certainly increasing the quality of life. The days now are, you've got to be in the office are pretty much gone, and we've got some flexibility now. People are able to work from home on some things and so forth, and even our folks in our restaurants, that they value, and COVID has made people value their downtime and their personal time even more so, and we need to honor that and react to that. So there's better quality of life out there for our people within the industry. We're continuing to focus on career and development with our people. The restaurant industry is a beautiful thing for that. I'm a classic story of that dish room to the boardroom. I started 41 years ago as a dishwasher at $265 an hour, and here I am today. And we've got lots and lots of stories around the company of people who have started. 85% of our managers started the hourly ranks as hourly associates. Our senior vice president of human resources started as a server with us 20 years ago now, while she was going to school. And there's just dozens and dozens and dozens of stories like that. So that's the story of Cameron Mitchell Restaurants and our associate first culture and values, and how it's helped us get to where we are today. But in closing, I'm very optimistic about the future of our restaurant industry. I'm optimistic about the future of America and American business as we move through COVID and get back to a more sense of normal as we move forward. So with that, thank you very much. I wish you all a pleasant evening. Enjoy your time here at this great dinner, and thank you very much for having me this evening. Take care.